Ta-da-ta. All right. So without further ado, Mary.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. So exciting to be here. It's so fun to see. Hey, there's Patty Marshall. I just left you a voicemail about 10 minutes ago. And Cindy Adams. Oh, my God, girl. We go back way too far, but you look too good to be that, I know how old you are, girl. You look too good. But, you know, mom's the word. But my name is, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mary Jadwisiak, and I own a company called Holding the Hope. And I do workforce development in the behavioral health industry. I loved seeing that you're sharing about jobs. We have a newsletter that we send out to LinkedIn. I've got a couple thousand followers on LinkedIn. So if you want, send me a job description. I'll get it in our newsletter that we send out, and it goes out, it goes out nationally. So anybody who has a job, please just mail it to me. I'm going to pop my email in the chat, or Amanda, if you could do that, that would be great, because I can't find the chat because it's early and I've only had half a cup of coffee. So, so Amanda contacted me and asked me to talk about peer support and kind of the basics of peer support. And okay, so here's the thing: is there are so many things that I can talk about when it comes to peer support, and I get really excited about it. And I am a recovery geek. In my in my company, everything I do is based on the guiding principles of recovery. So if you're not familiar with SAMHSA's guiding principles of recovery, that is absolutely a place where you need to go, and a place where you need to really be like have a functioning knowledge of how those guiding principles of recovery fit into your world, because peer support is one of those. So you need to understand the environment from which you came. We're all impacted by the environment that we came from, right? And so I want you to really understand that peer support came from a place of discontent, right? Peer support came from people who were receiving services that said, you know what, I think we can do better. I think that as a system, we can get our needs met better. I think that as a system, we can look at these principles of recovery, or we can, for many, many, many years, the goal was symptom management, right? And so you had to, the Medicaid billing codes that drive our system were based on two things. Is it medically necessary and appropriate, right? So those are the things that drove the system. So in order to get help, you had to have something wrong with you. Now, here's what I want you to understand then. As folks came through and said, yeah, okay, great, there's stuff wrong with us, whatever, we don't care. But what we want to know is, how can we get well? And that was a concept that was really new. So I want you to understand that as people were diagnosed, they were told things like, don't get married, don't have children, don't go to school, don't get jobs, stay home, take your medicine. I call it the Jerry Springer approach, where the most exciting thing in your life was who was going to get into a fight on Jerry Springer that day. It was a talk show. I keep dating myself. So here's the thing. We know now that people get well. We know now that people get well from mental illness. We know that people get well from addiction. We know that people get their life back, and we know that peer support is a huge part of that. But if you don't understand where you came from, you're not going to understand the conflicts that are inherent in being a peer supporter. One of the core principles of peer support, and we're going to go through them all, is that you're a change agent. It isn't by accident, right? That's the nature of who you are, right? When you take on the role of a peer supporter, you need to understand that with that comes some stress around being a change agent. What does that mean? Well, that means that that means that when you come in, you're coming in from a different perspective. You're not coming in to change a person, to help. Okay, so you're not there to help a person meet certain benchmarks. That's not your job. You're not there to help people achieve certain things. That's not your job. Your job is to help that person achieve a state of mind, to help that person achieve some empowerment, to help that person realize, hey, wait a minute, maybe I really don't want to go back to school. Maybe I really just want to stay home and do my art, whatever it is, right? So as we go through these, I'm going to talk more about it, but that's really kind of where peer support came from. It came from a place of disruption. It came from a place of advocacy. Those are the roots of peer support. And as it's grown up over the years, those of us who've been around a minute, as it grows up, what happens is we see stuff and we're like, that's not right. And you're like, what do you mean? This is my job, So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. And I emailed Amanda a couple of documents, one of which I created. In my head, I thought there were 8 pillars of peer support. Turns out there's only 5. So I added 3 more just to be consistent. And so we'll go through those. But the other thing that I sent Amanda is a document called, that's what it's called. It's called the National Practice Guidelines for Peer Specialists and Supervisors. This was created by the National Association of Peer Supporters. If you don't belong to that, you should. It's a fantastic organization, and it's like a professional organization for peer supporters across the country. They call themselves different stuff. It's based on peer support from its roots. It's been around for a long time. It used to be international, now it's national again, but they put out some really good materials. I just did 2 days worth of training yesterday and the day before on ethics and boundaries, and I based it completely on this document. So there you go. So that's what we got going on here, and that's what we're going to do. So we've got 45 minutes left or so, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these. I love to talk, but I just do. But what I also love is to have conversations, right? I just really love that, conversations back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I would love to create conversation in the room. And if I had a learning goal for today, and I hope you all have some kind of a learning goal, it would be, how do we move this conversation outside after this particular document, after this particular workshop? So you're going to be in here with me for an hour, but what then? So my goal for you is to be listening for something that you think, is like a little, what? It's like if you feel a little, in your gut, or even better, you get kind of caustic and bitter. That's my sweet spot. You get kind of caustic and bitter, and you go, that's not right. Well, if that's the case, then I want you to really focus on that and learn about that, whatever that was. And so at the end of our time together today, I'm going to give you some homework around that. So kind of be aware of what's going on in your body. If your gut kind of takes a tweak, or you feel yourself checking out, pay attention to what it is that's being said at that point that's driving that feeling, those feelings and those thoughts. All right, so let's get started, shall we? As they say, let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen. I might just share a clip just to kind of get you all worked up this morning. But for right now, I'm just going to share my screen. And where'd it go? There it is. So what do we have going on here is, as I said, I went to SAMHSA and looked at peer support, and I got these, guiding principles of peer support. And like I said, there were 5. So I called this SAMHSA Enhanced, 8 Pillars of Peer Support, and let's go through it. The first one is recovery-based. Now, I talked a little bit about recovery, and I talked a little bit about how if you look at the guiding principles of recovery. So let me just ask you something real quick. Let me go back. I'm going to stop sharing, and I need you to raise your hand or turn your camera on or something. I want to know how many people are like exceedingly familiar with the guiding principles of recovery. That's not even half. Okay, so So we need to go back. So you have another homework assignment, and oh, good, thank you, Amanda Shaw. Like, I am. So, all right, then, so that's good. So we've got at least some. So what I want to do then is something different. I'm gonna start with those. I'll send those to Amanda. Guiding principles of recovery. I just happen to have 10,000 copies here that I made. And so this is just recovery emerges from hope. Recovery is person-driven. Recovery occurs via many pathways. Recovery is holistic. It's supported by peers and allies, supported through relationships and social networks, based on culturally based and influenced, supported by addressing trauma, involves individual, family, community strengths and responsibility, and is based on respect. Those are the guiding principles of recovery. There's a whole handout from SAMHSA. I would highly recommend that you get that and that you read that, and that you every day you figure out, how can I infuse these principles into the work that I do. Okay, so having said that, I've been teaching and talking about the guiding principles of recovery since 2004 when they first came out, because I so believe in them, because they're such a game changer, because they take the power back. There's nothing in there that, if you heard that, there's nothing in there that says that recovery involves abstinence, that recovery involves non-usage, that recovery involves symptom management, that recovery involves treatment adherence, and none of that, right? All of those things are important. And all of those, and when it comes to recovery, what I want to say is, it isn't either or. It isn't the recovery model or the medical model. It's both. They both work together hand in hand. The medical model, you got to have it, right? You got to have, if your symptoms are out of control, then nothing else is going to matter. You're not going to have a life to get back to, right? So I really believe that these two principles, these two approaches, basically they're two philosophies. They have to go hand in hand. And when we can enmesh these into all the work we do, then we're going to have a whole person. So there we go. So that's my bit about recovery. And I'm going to just out loud, I feel really pressured, because I feel like I have to dump 15 years worth of knowledge in 45 minutes. So I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to drink my coffee here, and I'm going to go back to the topic at hand.
That was a good self-care statement. I love that, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So because I am a geek about this, and I just want everybody to know from where we came. And so that's my spiel. Let's talk about peer support. Let's talk about why we're here. I have an older sister, and she is my mentor when it comes to my business. And she taught me years and years and years ago, before I was even in business, to really, what her mentor taught her is to just ask that question, why are we here? And I find that so helpful in so many of my misadventures. So when we talk about people being recovery-based, what that means is, as a peer supporter, your work is based in recovery. Your work is based on hope. Your work is based on helping people to achieve a meaningful life. You help the people that you serve to build on their strengths, and you empower them to choose for themselves. So it's not like we're helping people to symptom manage, or we're helping people to do anything else, right? We're empowering people to take control of their life. Something's going on. My phone dialed itself. I don't even know where it is. Okay. So when we look at, so this is what gets me excited. And this is where I think a lot of times people don't really understand, why are we here? We are here to help shift people's mindset from one of, I'm sick and I'm broken and I need help, to I want my life to look different, and what do I need to do, and how do I need to think, and what are some things that might help me in my own empowerment to help me take control back of my life. So it's going from passive to active roles in your life. And which leads to the next one, which is where it's really person-centered. People have the right to make whatever choice they want in their lives as long as they understand the consequences of those choices. If they don't understand the consequences of those choices, then they're really vulnerable and they need to be protected. But up to this point, most of us do understand the consequence of our choices. And, everybody has the right to make bad choices. It's called dating. That's what we do. We try stuff on, we see if it works. We're like, oh my God, you're the same person I've dated for 5 years. I'm going to do this different this time. This is the same way I've done for 5 years. I've gone on medicine and then felt better and gone off medicine. Maybe I should do something different. And we all know that in order to do something different, something has to shift internally. That comes from the person. Peer support services are always directed by the person participating in the services. This is not, they're not, when we say that people are person driven, they're not, it's not person navigated, right? They're not sitting in the seat next to you telling you where they want to go. And they're not napping in the back seat, right? And they're not in the store buying snacks. They're in the driver's seat. They're setting the agenda. They're driving the course of what's going to happen in that relationship. It's very relationship focused, okay? Which is what makes peers different. When it comes to being a relationship focused, what that means is it's actually like very mutual. And which is that coming up here? Probably. It's mutual. It's altruistic. It's where you're getting as much from this conversation that you're having with this person as they are. You're learning, you're growing in your recovery just as much as they are. They're driving the direction and you're just there, either you're the navigator maybe, or you're the tour guide maybe, but these people are driving it. It's their hopes, it's their goals, it's their preferences. They're the ones who make the choices, and they have the right to say yes, please, and no, thank you. And they have the right to ask for something that isn't offered. Oh my God, really? Yes, right? If you need something that isn't offered, they have the right to ask for that, and maybe you could help them figure out how to get that. I jumped down to relationship focus because I really feel like that's what makes peer supporters different than clinical. It's very relationship focused. It's about the connection that you have with that person. And those of you that are working in peer supporters, you don't need me to tell you this, but your bosses might need that to understand it, which is why I'm sending this, because this document that Amanda has, there's 12 guidelines, right? 12 principles here, core values. And what this document has is it has like a peer support activity, and then it's got a whole column on what can your supervisor do to support you as you create and you infuse this value into the work that you do. So sometimes when it comes to understanding that peer support is really a relationship, it's actually a friendship-based relationship. People get really freaked out by that, and they feel like they're violating all kinds of boundaries, and it's unethical. And so if that kind of tweaks your gut and it's like, wait a minute, I'm not sure that's true, I would really invite you to look a little deeper into that. And that's the one thing that I think intentional peer support is really good at helping you navigate. How do you have a conversation with a person and a relationship with a person that is not based on your job? Well, that's not true, because it is based on your job, but isn't a clinical approach, right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. The other piece that I think is really important to understand is that peer support is 100% voluntary. So if you're in a situation and the person is being forced to see you, I have to tell you that that's not peer support. You might have a peer support title, you might, you might be doing a lot of things, but it isn't really authentic, actual peer support, because there's nowhere in peer support where force and coercion are involved. If that's the case, if perhaps you're providing peer support to somebody who has been involuntarily admitted to a place of healing, then do whatever you can to make them feel like their choices are driving this situation. And even in that type of situation, they should be able to say yes, please, or no, thank you to peer support. Sometimes people accidentally force peer support on people because they're like, hey, welcome, you are approved to join into this new team. It's fantastic, this new service that we're offering, and as part of this package deal, you get this, you get therapy, you get family therapy, you get parent partnering, you get peer support, you get this, you get this, you get this. So they get this whole package of services, and nobody asked them, maybe, do you want this? What, right? It's not a menu. It's a one of those where you just show up and they feed you what they're going to cook that day. It's not like you get a menu of services. That's not voluntary. So whatever you need to do, people, that this really kind of folds in with peers, with person driven, that the person it's always their choice. It's always their choice. Of course, peer support is also one of the it's not only trauma informed, but it is part of providing trauma informed care. That if you want to get the label, if you want to meet the achievement of being a trauma informed agency, you have to have peer support. And I would really invite you to look at, what does it mean to be trauma informed? There's a list of, I think, 5 or 6 things that tell you exactly what you need to be trauma informed. It's all very categorized now, which is helpful because there's a clear definition of what does it look like to be trauma informed. You can actually make a checklist. Are we doing this? Am I doing this? And all of it comes down to safety. Does that person feel safe talking to you? And that's where, recovery-based, person-centered, voluntary, relationship-focused, that's all driving into, is this trauma informed? How can we help you feel safe? That includes choices, that building on strengths, helping that person find their own strengths. That might just be sitting quietly with somebody and not applying pressure because you have a to-do list. It could be just really helping them regain a sense of power and control when they have lost all control, right? This is what addiction and illness does to us. It steals our control and makes us feel like we're helpless when we're really not. When really that's kind of the trick to mental illness and addiction, is it tricks us into feeling helpless, so we just stay there. When the honest to God truth is that we're not helpless, and there are things we can do to take our life back. And helping people find that power and find that control is really trauma informed. So I want to talk to you now about the one that I think is where we all get, people get a little sideways because they're like, but what? And so the answer, the question is, peer supporters are non-clinical supporters. What does that mean? That means that you're sitting on a clinical, team, and you're part of a clinical environment, but you are a non-clinical intervention into that person's life. And that's what gives you power. I can't say this enough. I think so often I see people. The other day, this woman we were doing training on ethics and boundaries, and someone said, they were describing a situation and they used the words that the person that they were serving had escalated. And that really, I noted that because that's not a peer support word. That's a clinical model word. They were using that word because it made them feel like part of the gang, right? There's a lexicon that comes in being in a clinical environment. We all use these same words, and then you feel like you're part of the team. And so we kind of align ourselves with the people that we see who have the power. And all of our lives, that's been the people who've been bailing us out and helping us sort things out. We align ourselves with that. And what happens is we lose our peerness, because a peer would say, she was really upset. She was really upset. Or she was crying really hard. Something went wrong. Or she was really angry. I wonder what made her so angry. Do you feel the difference in those two statements? She was really upset versus she escalated. There's a judgment in the escalation. There's a coldness in the escalation. There's a distance. There's no relationship in the escalation. There's no relationship there. There's no empathy there. And so, but when you say she was really upset, she was really angry. It's been a long time since I've seen somebody cry that hard. That's a very different feel. That's the relational feel. So as peers, I would really invite you to do a self-assessment. Use clinical words. Do a self-assessment and just take a piece of paper, the line down the middle and clinical on one side and peer on the other. Every time you hear yourself say something that is clinical, put a little check mark. And every time you hear yourself say something superior, more support, put a little check mark. And just give yourself an idea to see what's going to happen, right? How are you coming across to the people that you're serving? Because that should be your primary focus. The people that you work with are great. And they are going to love the working with you, because they're going to see their clients get well, and that makes them happy. And they're going to come to appreciate who you are, just exactly as who you are. And I need you to understand that when you lose your peerness, you lose your power and your authority. I had a revelation the other day. I recently had an anniversary of working with a certain company, and there's a story that goes with this, how I came to this revelation. But what I want you to understand is, I realized one day that not only was it okay for me to be myself, because it was very successful with the students I was teaching, but that it was required. Like, I didn't get to choose. I always felt like I had to be something different because who I was clearly not enough. But I realized that I didn't get to choose. I had to bring this, whatever it is, I had to bring it forward. That's the assignment. I had to bring this forward every day in whatever it showed up as. So when I do that, then I'm authentically me. And then I can create a relationship. And then I can create a safe space. But people are not going to feel safe around you if they feel like you're not being who you are, or if you're just not, like, something's wrong here, right? You can sense it. There's a level of confidence and peace that comes with you when you just go, I don't get to choose. I have to be myself today. Sorry, everybody. That's the assignment. I have to be myself. So we need you to walk like a peer. We need you to talk like a peer. We need you to dress like a peer. It does not mean you can wear flip-flops to work. But you also, Amanda's like, what? Can't wear flip-flops to work? You can, okay, you can if that's who you are. Wear flip-flops, whatever. Just check it out with HR first. So these are the things that is really important. Okay, so that's the internal stuff. Let's talk about the external stuff of being non-clinical. If your job involves med management, if your job involves symptom management, if your job involves treatment adherence, monitoring any of those things, then that's not peer support. That's something else, right? It's a person with lived experience working as a case aide or a med tech or something. But as a peer support, that's none of your business. A person's diagnosis, really none of your business. So what you need to really understand is what do they need to talk about today? So you don't need to have that whole clinical background and all of that. That's going to get in the way of your relationship. If you're anything like me, that's going to give you excuses to judge and to treat that us and them and create that barrier. So, at Holding the Hope, we do a workshop maybe once a year now. We do a workshop about documenting It's documentation for Medicaid. And Ann Ryder does this for us, and she does such a beautiful job of helping you to document what you're seeing and what you're doing so that it's in alignment with the treatment plan, but is also in alignment with your work as a peer supporter and what that looks like. And so the other thing I really want to talk about now is the word certified peer counselor. I hate it. I don't know who came up with it. I've been complaining about it for 20 years or 10 years or however long it's been around. It's a complete misnomer. Okay, we are not counselors. We're not mini counselors. We're not peer counselors. That's like stuff that happens in high school. We're peer supporters. There's no counseling involved. Just get rid of that word. And don't think of yourself as a counselor. That's where you're going to get in trouble. So just stay true to your peerness, and you'll do fantastic things. I've done workshops with people in all over the country. People come to my workshops and they say, I hear some stuff that just makes me shake my head. And one of them is where the clinical people, the clinical staff are jealous of the peer supporters because of the impact they have on the people's lives. And they're like, how come I'm not having that kind of impact? How come they don't tell me that? I didn't know that. So what does that mean? That means that the clinical staff have not been properly educated on what is peer support. And that means that there hasn't been enough work done in your organization to become a recovery-based organization, so that the realization is everybody has a role in recovery. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are the janitor, or if you are the psychiatrist, or if you're the executive director. Everybody has a role in the person walking through the front door. They have a role in their recovery, and everybody has a different role, and no role is more important than any other role. When you have an organization that has that, then peer supporters are going to thrive. Just because you have recovery in your title, like, we are Recovery Incorporated, or whatever you want to call yourself, right? I don't want to use a specific name because everybody has recovery in their name. It's not enough. Like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Where can I point to in your policies and procedures that show us that we are absolutely recovery based? A little side rant. So that's one of the things, though, that people don't understand, is that they really, peer support is a very non-clinical intervention. And then I talked a little bit about being a change agent. Just by showing up in your organization and being non-clinical and being who you are, there's a ripple effect, because everybody just kind of goes in lockstep with the clinical. Nobody questions that. But when you come in and you're like, I'm going to do things a little different, or you come into a team meeting and you have a different interpretation, because that's also what peer supporters do, is they're kind of translators between the clinical and the people, and the people and the clinical. And so you're on this team and you come in and you have a little bit of a different approach to how you're going to approach this issue, or you have a little different perspective on what's really going on. That changes the culture of the organization. And so, what you also do is you are a change agent for the people that you serve. You create change by within them, by empowering them and modeling to them that things can be different. And every so often you drop a little bit of your story, right? That's what makes you is your story. And so you drop a little bit about your story in there, and the people are like, wow, you really do get it. You understand. Right, there's a whole nother workshop on how to tell your story, and that's not going to be today. But as we tell our stories and we drop it in here and here and here, people begin to trust us. They begin to relate to us. They begin to realize that they can have a relationship with us. That changes them. So you're going to be a change agent to the environment that you're in, and you're going to be a change agent to the people that you're kind of come alongside. I want to talk a little bit about your story. You can't share something that you don't own, right? That's just really simple. You cannot change something that you don't own. So what that means is you own your story, 100% of it. You own the dark parts, you own the light parts, you own the funny parts, you own the tragic parts, you own it. And if you don't own it, if you're hiding from it, then you become vulnerable to other people owning your story. So how do you own your story? You own your story by, first of all, just know that it's what happened, and it just kind of taking that it is what it is mindset. But also, you choose when you share it. Sometimes people think in an office, they'll be like, what's your diagnosis? Because they feel like just because you're a peer supporter that your story is open for business. Anybody can just have access to your story because that's what brought you here, right? We know you have a story because you got hired as a peer supporter, and so we know you got some kind of a story going on there. And what's your diagnosis? You must have been misdiagnosed, because a person with your diagnosis certainly could not be well. You couldn't be doing this well in your org. No, that's not true. So here's the thing. It's okay to say, I don't talk about my diagnosis. What? What you have? No, I don't. I don't talk about that. I've seen this go down, and it is fun to watch. And the person who's asking just kept asking, no, what's your diagnosis? Like they did not understand that they did not have a right to that information. And I loved the person with the diagnosis just kept being like, I don't talk about it. And I swear to God, she had to say it 3 or 4 times. And the person just could not understand it. And we're at dinner in this big, a long time ago. Hopefully things have changed. But I just want you to understand that when it comes to your story, your coworkers don't have access to that. Even your bosses don't need to have access to it. It's just, it just is what it is. And you share that when you think it's appropriate. When you think it's appropriate for the people you serve, and when you think it's appropriate to help the people that you work with, because they might not understand something that you're taking for granted, and you realize, they don't have the experience to know what this is like. I'm going to have to tell them a little bit of my story to help them understand the context of what we're all talking about here. So that's when you share a little bit of your story, when it's helpful. But the other thing is that doesn't mean that they get to go out and go, oh my God, did you hear what Mary said in staff meeting today? That is not appropriate either. So if that kind of stuff's going down, that's where your supervisor needs to step in and say, no, that's not, no, we don't do that. It's just respect. And when you have a recovery-based organization, you respect each other. And so that's why I have here that peer support is one part of a recovery-based continuum of services. And that peer supporters thrive when they're centered in an environment that understands recovery and respects the role of peer supporters and respects the people that they're serving. Respect requires that the entire agency or organization has a complete understanding of what peer support is and is not, and how it contributes to a person's recovery journey. They have to believe that people can get well. I think that a lot of clinical people that have been around a while, they may not believe that. They may think, I'm not really sure that's possible. I don't think that's really going to happen. She's been around here a long time, bouncing in and out. They got all the pejorative names for people who bounce in and out, and please don't repeat those names. If you hear somebody say those kind of things, like frequent flyer or whatever, those kind of things, just stop them and say, that feels really pejorative to me, and can we find another way? Here's the thing: if a person is bouncing in and out, that's your fault, because they're not getting what they need, but they keep coming back to you because they believe in you. They have hope. They keep coming back to this agency they've got more hope than you do. That's a problem. So let's look at what's going on with this person, that they're not getting their needs met. They're not getting what they need. They need something that's not happening because they keep coming back. So what's that about? So just reframe that whole conversation. Oh my God, you can watch the head spin. It's really fun to watch. So I want to say a little bit about self-care before we go here, because it's 9:43, and I've got a couple of videos I'm trying to decide, but one of them is I'm going to show you. It's about 6 minutes long, and it's really about self-care, and it's by a woman whose name is Vicki Reynolds. And what Vicki Reynolds is a PhD out of, I think she's like out of Alberta or out of Victoria, BC. And what she talks about is that it's not about self-care, it's about collective care and how we have to help each other stay well. What I'm going to show you is one little tiny 6-minute video, but the page that this video is on is really powerful. And so it has lots of, you'll see. So am I not sharing my screen? Oh, for God's sake. I'm so sorry. I thought I was sharing my screen the whole time.
We love you anyway, Mary.
Right.
It's so crazy. All right. Well, now I'm going to admit Janice, and now I'm going to, oh, see, here's what I was sharing you is this document that you're going to get. This is a document that you're going to get. Amanda's got it. She's going to email it out to all of y'all. There's a bunch of stuff in the chat. I'm not going to go there right now, but what I am going to do is go over here. I'm going to play this for you.
Hi, I'm Vicki Reynolds. I'm an adjunct professor and a clinical supervisor, but mostly I'm a social justice activist, and my work is really trying to keep people who are working in the margins well and ethical so that we can be of use across time. So the idea of the zone of fabulousness, it's an alternative way to look at worker burnout. Instead of measuring the mental wellness of the worker, I'm interested in trying to center the person we're trying to serve, the person that gets called a client. So what I want to know is, are we holding ourselves close to our clients, or are we moving away? So what I think about is sometimes workers do get harmed in the work. I'm not denying that. But it usually falls out one of two ways. One way that people kind of enact burnout is by moving way too close to clients. And this is where we start to create relationships that are way too intimate with clients, to the fact that they're actually transgressive. And when we're with enmeshment and we move too close to clients, sometimes workers situate themselves as heroes. I always remind myself a hero is someone whose one parent is a god and one parent's a human. So it's a pretty undoable position. But these are folks who, you know, they work hard and then they keep just working harder. It's kind of like they're shoveling water. They feel really ineffective, so they just keep working. But they move so close into clients that they lose track of all kinds of boundaries, and they work like lone wolves. You know, these are folks who say things like, I had to take a client home because I'm the only person they've got. As soon as you start to think you're the only person they've got. They also really diminish the work of other workers, and they only take on the work that feeds them. You know, like you clean the toilets and you start doing the session notes because I'm going to talk to people because I'm really relational. They really like me, you know. So when folks get enmeshed, they move way too close to people, and those relationships can be really intrusive. If we think about trauma symptoms, they can be intruding and crossing the boundaries of people, and it's really not attainable. Like they can't keep going on like that. And so they become really ineffective. And they're the folks who, when they cross these boundaries, they can get organizations investigated and shut down. These are folks who sometimes lose their job because it's so obvious they've gone way beyond the pale, but really diminishing the work of other workers. And but the transgressions of intimacy make it very unsafe for clients. And they replicate things like sexual abuse, which is this real transgression of boundaries. With enmeshment, people are bleeding all over everybody. In disconnection, people don't have broken hearts because they don't bring their heart to work. People become very disconnected. So they move way too far away from the people we're trying to serve, from the people who are called clients, and they get really disconnected from their own bodies, their own spirituality, their own community, other people. These are folks who use things like avoidance and numbing if we think about trauma symptoms. So these are folks who go home from work and have to have a couple of drinks to disconnect from what happened from the day. They don't stay with it. They don't work through it. They're disconnected. People who are taken with disconnection are often taken with ineffectiveness. They're not sure what they're doing is okay. They can get taken with massive negativity, and that negativity across time turns into cynicism. They're pissed about their organization. They're pissed about their coworkers, their managers. And when these folks keep up with that massive negativity and cynicism, what they're really doing is bullying. And these are folks, when someone brings a new idea, they got to nail that right into the ground. They're like, absolutely not. You know, this new idea you have, we've already had it. We've already tried it. It's not going to work. This place isn't going to get fixed. And they use this negativity to keep everybody away, because what they don't want to show is their work or themselves, because they're so disconnected from all of that, right? when folks are taken with disconnection, they can even move. They are so about themselves that they can get to the place where they actually situate themselves as the victims of this work. So while we're in an opiate epidemic and people are dying, you can have some staff members talk about it's hardest on them. It just seems like an absolute inversion of power. But people kind of manage when they get with that much negativity and that much disconnection to start to see themselves as a victim of their work. So where we want to be is in the middle. We want to be in the zone of fabulousness. We're in solidarity with other workers. We're not being heroes and we're not being the victims of our work. The place where the client is actually at the center. We're really connected to our collective ethics for justice doing with people. We're in the team. We're holding each other up. That solidarity that we have with each other means we are able to offer each other critique. And we're not looking at self-care so much. We're looking for our collective care. And collective care often looks like critique. We're going to keep each other with fabulousness so that when someone starts to slip out, we're going to kind of bring them back to those collective ethics that we serve and that person's the thing at the center. So, when we're in the zone of fabulousness, we're in there together. You cannot keep yourself fabulous. That's really important. Everybody has great intentions. I always remind myself, nobody came to this work to hurt anybody. So if somebody's slipping towards enmeshment or disconnection, it's not where they want to be going. So my solidarity requires that I don't make them feel better about that and I don't ignore that. I let them know about that. So we owe each other a terrible loyalty, right? And so when I see somebody leaving the zone of fabulousness, I need to offer them a critique and I have to bring them back to what's fabulous. To do that, we have to have pre-existing relationships of respect and dignity. I don't care if coworkers like each other. In fact, sometimes it's not even helpful because we smooth over differences between us and we don't prioritize the service we're doing to the people we're there to serve. So I want someone who's going to have the moral courage to invite me back to accountability to our collective ethics. That's what solidarity means in this moment, in terms of the zone of fabulousness.
Okay, so that's just a little word of caution about zone of fabulousness. Please don't start immediately critiquing your coworkers. They'd be like, it's my job to show you how you are no longer fabulous. It's a collective ethics, which means it's an agreed upon approach that we all agreed to ourselves as we go. Yes, this video is available for you to show to your team, and so I'm going to pop it in the chat right now. Maybe. Let's see, where's the chat? Chat. Here it is.
Mary, this is great. I loved the video.
Thank you.
There's a lot of positive feedback. I want to show my team at work that video.
And if you just Google Zone of Fabulousness or Vicki Reynolds with two Ks, VIKKI Reynolds, she's awesome. This is part of her opioid response. Opioid catastrophe response, but she's got a bunch of other stuff on that page as well. So we have 10 minutes and oh, there you go. Gwendolyn just put something in there for all of us. She's helping us stay fabulous. So do we have, I haven't seen, are there any questions in the chat that I missed?
There was lots of comments, not so much on the questions. Most of that I saw, at least, most of the questions were about, are we going to get the printouts or the documents? Can I have the video? And I want to remind everybody too, gather myself, when we
take a deep breath, drink a sip of coffee, do something.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary. Okay, so I will get the video, the YouTube link out to everybody as soon as it goes through communication. So everyone will have access to this entire webinar. And if you're curious about past webinars that we've done, please reach out and let me know, because I have a catalog of everything that we've recorded. So I'm very happy, yes, with emails and descriptions alike. So I'm very happy to send that out if that's something that you're curious about or you want to see. And as far as questions, most of it was just around, can we have these resources? Unless I missed something. And if I did, please unmute yourself and ask Mary openly.
Oh, please. I would, we've got 10 minutes left. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, but first I'm going to give you homework. So what I want you to do first is I want you to identify one of those things that just kind of made you twinge a little bit and set a goal around that. Set a goal around that. Thanks, Patty. See you later. Set a goal around that, and then find somebody to share that goal with, because we really have to partner on these things. And when you, what I want you to do is, I want you to like connect. I gotta turn the chat off because it's like so distracting. I want you to connect with another person and brag about yourself. How'd you do on that goal this week? And continue that conversation with them so that you have somebody that you're talking to. You identified one little thing that you want to work on and you want to get better at. And so you're going to work on that with them, because we can all leave this thing going, wow, that was great information. And then where did it go? We got to go from your head to your heart, down to your fingers. And so how's that going to show up in your work? And that's the goal I want you to set. How is that going to show up in my work? And here's, oh my God, I did such a good job listening today. And, or, oh my gosh, whatever it was that you want to brag about, you want to get better at, find a partner, do it. Okay. Now, Savannah Jacobs and Savannah, what's up? Your hand's up.
Hey, yes. So I just have a question because, how do I phrase this? I'm just wondering, I'm doing peer support. I am certified, but I'm doing peer support more in a advocacy program to help people with lived experience who've been homeless, to help others with homelessness navigate systems. So it's a little different type of peer support. And what I'm curious about is, in the history of the actual mental health support with SAMHSA, and that was getting started, they wanted to prove that peer support worked. How is that measured? Like, that might be too off topic.
That is way out of my price league. I have no idea. Sorry. Oh, you know what? There's a guy at the federal government that could probably help you with that. His name is Paolo Del Vecchio. I'm gonna put his name in the chat. And that would be a great question for him, because you know what? I do not know.
Okay, thank you.
And I might have mispronounced his name. Yeah, that looks better. He's with SAMHSA. Okay. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Hi, Ron. When COVID hit, I was doing I did a 8 a.m. call every morning, and Ron was part of our cadre. It's good to see you.
Hugely supportive.
Yeah, wasn't it? That was so good for me too. All right, what else? Hey, there's Kathleen Murphy.
Yeah, she was talking to you earlier.
I just want to say, like, your message hit real good today, because, like, even though I kind of work at a higher level sometimes in the peer support movement, I'm in these spaces where I hear these things, and it's like, oh yes, I may have on a clinical hat for a little while to be in these spaces, but boy, oh boy, to be able to hold true to that peerness.
Yeah.
Golden. So thank you for the message. I mean, I hear it a lot, but I can't hear it enough.
Great. I'm glad that you hear it a lot.
Yeah.
Glad I'm not the only one saying it.
Well, I may be just saying it a lot to myself in my head. So thank you for echoing what I'm thinking, Mary.
Good.
I needed that. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
We have about 3 minutes left. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? You want to do a little song?
There's Cindy Adams has her hand up.
It won't be a song. I just
Hi,
want to
Cindy.
say, Mary, it was like a jolt of caffeine. And it just was like, I just so needed that. It's Thursday. We still have one more day. It's been a long week. We've had a lot of challenging things happen in our community and our country. And I just really appreciate going back to the basics of why we got involved in this, and
Why are we here?
and how peer support started. And so I just really appreciate it. Plus, what the heck, it's been forever and a day since I've seen you. So
I know. Look at all the hearts popping up. Yep. I'm so glad. Cindy, I just never get to your corner of the state.
Come see us.
Okay. Thank
Wow.
you all. I want to do one shameless commerce plug while we have 2 minutes. If you go to the peersupporttrainingcenter.com, I agree, Patty Marshall, it is a challenging part of our staying in our lane. Peersupporttrainingcenter.com, all one word. You'll find on-demand training. You can register for our live trainings. You can have access to the peer support, the CARES toolkit, essential skills for peer supporters. It's all video, it's all on demand, and it's all really reasonably priced. So I hope that you'll go there and support Holding the Hope. And if there's anything I can do for you in your company, if you just want to call me, you got a question, please do so, Mary at holdingthehope.com.
Thank you. Yay. Everybody give Mary a round of applause. Woo. Okay, Mary, that was wonderful. I agree with Cindy. It's like a jolt of caffeine and my arm hairs are standing up and I'm super excited to finish my day out today. And
It's my
I just want
deal.
to, as far as shameless plugging, that's I would like to say too, everybody, we had our first Washington State incarceration training for peers, and only 2 people didn't pass, but I'm going back to retest them. So I just want you to know, Mission Creek Women's Facility was able to participate, and this week we are at Walla Walla. So
Wow.
we are,
Atta
yeah,
girl.
we're moving fast. We're
Go
getting.
visit Cindy. Not
Well,
that
I'm
she's
not
a-
there yet, but I'm heading down today, Cindy. Maybe we'll see each other tomorrow.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for having me. Bye.
Thanks, Mary. Bye, folks. Have a really great rest of your week.
Wellness wishes.
Wellness
Oh,
wishes.
love it. Thank you.